All right, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about directional air roll. So let's just get into it. In the Rocket League scene, directional air roll revolutionized how players were able to move in the air. Going from a freestyle mechanic to an essential to high levels of aerial control, directional air roll opens up the possibilities of control and recovery that players can have in the air. So today, we're going to go over three parts. We're going to do first off what actually is directional air roll. I think that's something a lot of people don't actually know. They just know it's a thing. So we're going to really talk about what it actually is. Two is how to actually learn it. So for people that want to learn, this is the part you want to watch where I talk about how to actually start learning how to use it. And then three, this is for people that maybe have learned it a little bit or have learned it a lot and are still looking for ways to use it. I really recommend this class for all levels of people in this because even pros nowadays struggle with directional air roll at points. So let's start off with what actually is directional air roll. Okay, directional air roll is a binding for a button that Rocket League offers that allows you to air roll to the left or right. So when you guys go to your controls, you will see there is air steer and air roll left. So air roll is not default bound, so it is an option in the game, but most people who start off don't have it bound. Instead of having to hit the air roll button and move your stick around, so instead of having to use square or L1 or X and LB for Xbox people, you can, and then moving your stick around, you can just hit a button and your car will air roll in either the left or right direction. So you are adding a button to moving left in the air. Turning two inputs into one relieves a lot, but it is a hard process to learn. So let's keep it going. What can you actually do with directional air roll? When you directional air roll, you free up your stick to make other adjustments while air rolling. When you add air roll left and air roll right to your controls, you allow yourself to basically cut out two buttons into one. And the normal air button allows you to air roll, but now you can air steer and air roll at the same time, creating, and again, it's a very hard concept to explain, but just imagine air roll and air steer creating a third dimension of motion. It's not becoming 3D, but there is a different way that your car moves that you get with only having air roll bound or only with having air roll left or air roll right bound. And then with this third direction of motion, you can maneuver your car in a way that isn't possible with only the normal air roll button. So, if you're asking yourself, why should I learn this? First off, consistency. Directional air roll only requires one input, which makes it easier to be more consistent in the air. It's pretty simple. If you have less things you have to do, you will become more consistent at it. Second thing, you will backflip less on fast aerials. Most people, when they're fast aerialing and have normal air roll bound, I'm just using normal air roll as the way to say not directional air roll. If you have to hit a button and hit your stick while you're also trying to move your stick for the jump for fast aerial, you will sometimes backflip just because it's a lot of inputs you have to put in. So, consistency means that when you're in the air, you're only hitting one button. And I really like it. A difference of direction. There are some things that you can only do with directional air roll that are not possible with only normal air roll. We'll talk about that kind of at the very end as something that's really, really important for the higher levels of the game. But in the most basic sense, adding parts to your game that are only possible with one input, it just makes sense to add that input into your game. And then finally, easier recoveries. Half flipping is a lot easier with directional air roll compared to normal air roll. It's just easier to recover. It really is. So, in these two videos, we have first off normal air roll. As you can see, it's a little less consistent, on as you can see in my controller cam in the bottom there. I'm trying as hard as I can to just keep the stick in the left direction, but when you're moving around the field, it's really hard to just keep your direction to the left. And this is with directional air roll. As you can see, unfortunately the play bar kind of blocks it, but I'm hitting the square button. For all of these demonstrations, I have air roll left on square. We'll get into it. But when you use directional air roll, it just feels and looks smoother. I feel in this video, you can really tell how smooth it actually is. Okay, so how do you use directional air roll and your stick at the same time? The way I like to think about it is the way you air roll, so the way you directional air roll, left or right, and then the way you steer, left or right, are always inverse when you're trying to get to the center. So in this video, as you can see, I'm doing what they call a tornado spin, where my car is pointed to the middle no matter where I spin as it moves. And that is me, as you can see, moving my stick to the right and then holding air roll left. So air roll left, and then my stick to the right creates this tornado where I'm always pointed towards the middle. And then I move my stick outwards. So air roll left is still happening, but then my stick's moving to the left. So then when I'm air roll and spinning, my car is on the outside. The point of my car is on the outside. So from all of that, you can kind of see that the way I like to think about it is if they're inverse, you're going to be pointed towards the middle. So that could be air roll right, stick left. That could be stick left, air roll right. And then if they're the same way, your car's going to be pointed towards the outside when you're in the air. Again, this is a very tough concept to actually understand. Are there any questions on this section at all? Okay, let's keep it going. All right, next up, learning directional air roll. How do we actually learn how to do this? Okay, first thing to actually want to do is bind directional air roll. A lot of people don't actually have this bound on default. I think it is by default not bound. So here are the requirements that I like to have when you can actually use air roll and use your directional air roll. So you want to have at least one dedicated normal air roll button. You always want to have one air roll button, normal air roll. It is not recommended for you to just have directional air roll. So have at least one normal air roll button. And then have one directional air roll button. Pick the direction of where it is on your controller. I play with this kind of thing in mind. It just helps my brain to have it on the left side of the controller. So if your button is on the left side of the controller, so whether it's square, whether it's L1, whether it's you click your left stick in, I know some people do that. It's weird to me, but people do that, so I know it's possible. And then if you have like circle or R1, then you have air roll right. That just helps a little bit when you're learning of, oh yeah, I'm going in that direction. And maybe two. As you can see, we'll get to my example binds, but I have left on square, right on circle. It's possible if you move some buttons around, we'll get into it. And then finally, this is the big thing. If you want to have a directional air roll button, you need to be able to hit the jump, boost, and air roll button. And I didn't put this in the thing, but all at the same time. You need to be able to hit all of these at the same time, because when you are in the air and when you are jumping, you need to be able to hit air roll, hit your boost button, and hit your jump button, especially when you are fast aerialing and getting into the fast aerial with directional air roll. So here is an example of my binds. These are the binds that I would tell any person in the game to actually use. So first off, air roll is on L1. The normal air roll button is on L1. Boost is RB and then R2 as well. So I use bumper boost. Basically, I have my pointer finger on my R1 or RB. Oh, shoot. R1. Let me make sure I get that right. I have my pointer finger on my R1, and then I have my middle finger on the R2 button or RT. Arrow left is here, square or X. So the way that I'm able to jump and use arrow at the same time is I use the basically use my thumb and put it down on both buttons, and then I will lift my thumb up when I'm not jumping, just to make it easier. And then finally, arrow right, I forgot to mention this, but it is circle or B. So arrow right is on this side. So these are the binds that if you are thinking, I want to have binds, use these because they are just the easiest way to use all of these buttons and not play claw and destroy your hands. If you already use, if you use boost on X or you use boost on circle, whatever, you can use arrow left and right on the bumpers. I really recommend the bumpers as being one of them, or clicking your left stick down. So that is all of the binds for arrow left or arrow right. Any questions? Okay, let's keep it going. So this is the first thing. Break it down in free play. I talked about this in my just my most recent video. You guys, when you're learning a mechanic, want to break it down into steps. This is my game. I turned my game speed down and I just went in the air. And as you can see, I'm hitting my air roll button on square here. And I am just jumping, boosting, and using my air roll left. And the second thing I talked about when you're learning mechanics is you need to tweak it. I think this is very important to mention. This bullet point right here. We'll start it. Directional air roll is a feeling. It is a feeling. So it takes a lot to get used to. There is not a one-size-fits-all definition of how you should be using directional air roll because in different situations you need to use it differently. But in the beginning, what you want to be doing is just holding air roll left or air roll right down, going in the air and seeing how your car reacts, how you actually use the air roll left button or air roll right button to stay in the air. Next thing I like to do is fly off the roof of the net to the other side and see if you can stay in the air while air rolling to the other side. So basically, you drive off the net, you drive up, and then you try landing on the other net while staying in the air the entire time. This gives you a good idea of air rolling and keeping your car pointed in the right direction to try and start learning the air roll and directional air roll process. Okay, let's keep it going. After the basics, here we'll stop these videos. Actually, we'll plan. Why not? They'll keep going. Once you can consistently stay in the air, you want to do other things with this air roll. So at the top, this is a rings map. This is a workshop map that is available on PC. If you were on PC, I really recommend Rings 3 by DMC. Here, I'll write it out for you guys. This is the map, Rings 3 by DMC. And as you can see, I am just holding my air roll left down right here, and I am boosting and jumping through these rings. Now, I have literally thousands of hours put into air roll left, so this looks very easy for me, but this will take you a while to get used to. But all I'm doing is I am keeping my air roll left, and I'm trying to keep myself going in the right direction. As you can see, I'm not doing a lot, but I'm doing a lot of just micro adjustments. It's not about, especially with arrow left, it's not about adjusting a ton. It's about using these micro adjustments to keep your car pointed in the right direction forward. And so for me, I just point my car towards where I need to go. And then I use arrow left to either keep myself going up, keep myself going left, keep myself going right. But this all boils down to you being able to adjust how your car works with what we talked about. Remember, if you want to point your car towards the center, it is inverse. If you want to point your car outwards, it's both directions. And then another thing, if you don't have rings, something I like to do is you use this area here and you just go around it, ring around the rosy in the middle of the field. And what that'll do is it will allow you to practice your control. Obviously, it's not the same as rings, but it gives you a way to stay in the air and control your car in the same directions that you need to with sort of a structure. And I call it, the free play ring around the circle. And rings maps are my favorite way to learn, just so I mentioned this as well. Rings maps are my favorite way to learn because, as you can see, this path is a lot. You're doing a lot. And so when you are able to stretch your use of air roll, by stretch, I mean just go through insane amounts of areas with air roll, everything you do later will seem a lot easier. So that's why I really, really love free playing around the map and the rings map as well. Okay, so let's keep it going. So now you have learned sort of how to aerial with your directional air roll. So next thing you want to be doing is actually hitting the ball. And this is just a video of me doing the all-star aerial training in the Rocket League training, but there are a lot of things that you can do. Aerial training is one I have custom training packs, and I have 3: redirects, backboard therapy, and air dribbles. You can find all of these on prejump.com. I will have a link in the description, and literally all you search are these 3 things, and you will find the workshop codes to put into your game. Remember, when you are working on learning directional air roll, it is really important to practice situations that will actually happen in game. So that's why I like redirects. That's why I like backboard therapy. That's why I like air dribbles, because it forces you to use air roll left and keep yourself pointed in the right direction to actually hit the ball towards the net or dribble the ball or whatever you're trying to do. So after that, this is the final part of my learning any mechanic class that I talked about, was casual 1v1s. Go into casual 1v1s and practice actually using air roll left. Don't be scared to go in the air. When you learn air roll left, it's going to feel almost completely different to actually go in the air. You don't want that. You are meant to make some mistakes. And so when you make those mistakes, that's how you actually learn more and more the feeling of using air roll left. All of this training, I can't stress enough, will take forever. It will take you months to learn. But don't get discouraged, because the payoff for you learning air roll left or air roll right is so, so big. And I will show you guys why. So let's talk about how to actually use directional air roll. So, first thing, consistent takeoffs. We will watch in the next few slides pro players taking off in the air using directional air roll, but it goes back to what I said earlier. It's a pretty simple math equation. Even I can do math. Yeah, that's very fair. 1 is less than 2. You only have to hit 1 button to air roll in the air compared to 2 buttons to air roll normally. So when you consistently use the square or R1 or RB or X or B, whatever you want to use, when you use that instead of having to hit the normal air roll button, your takeoffs in the air will be 100 times more consistent. Next thing is direction changes in the air. When you have to move around, that's what the rings maps, that's what the free play is all about. When you have to move around using air roll, you have to maneuver your car by maneuvering this stick around, and it's the same concept, guys. I keep going back to it. 1 is greater than 2, but in this situation, since you're using your stick, it's really 2 is greater than 3, because you have to really only use 2 things, but when you use normal air roll, you have to think about 3 things. How am I moving? How am I air rolling? All those things. And then flip recoveries are the big thing. When we watch this video, look at all these half flips. It's a lot easier to hit one button to air roll around than it is to use two buttons. These are some speed flips. If you are having problems with speed flips, adding air roll in the direction of your flip at the end of it improves your speed flip recovery by a lot. As you can see, when I speed flip to the left, I have my square button hit. And then when I speed flip to the left or the right, I have my air roll right button hit. Just a really simple way, again, easy, simple way to improve your skill ceiling by a lot is having those directional air rolls bound. And then finally, we have maneuvering your car to make the right touch on the ball in the air, which we will get to. Okay, here is the most important part of this class for expert people at directional air roll. If you use directional air roll, I guarantee you use it way too much. Here are situations where you should not be air rolling and not directional air rolling. Sorry, let me just put directional, just because you do need to air roll for most of these. But this is where you use normal air roll, that button and then your stick. First off, air roll shots. They're really quick and really hard to get precisely with just directional air roll. Use normal air roll for your air roll shots. When you're using ground recoveries, so wave dashing, moving around the field, quick, slight adjustments on the ground, don't use directional air roll. When you're adjusting for a flip reset, use your directional air roll for the takeoff, but make sure that you're using normal air roll when you're close to the ball to get those slight adjustments for the flip reset. And then this is the most important part. This is what I want you guys to get from this class is don't use air roll, directional air roll all the time. Directional air roll is meant to be used as adjustment and consistency, not just to look like you're a freestyler. If you air roll all the time, you are going to realize you get a lot more inconsistent touches. And that's why I have this idea of less is more. I want you to watch this. This was actually taken from the most recent major final game. Watch how Sekou goes for this ball in the air. Look at that. He does one rotation of air roll left. And it's just so that he can move around and get to this ball. Most people air roll way too much. Way too much. So, and what directional air rolling will do is you will get inconsistent touches in the air. Your takeoffs will be slower because you're using air roll instead of going up. And then you're wasting boost because instead of pointing your car fully in the right direction, you're doing that tornado spin where your car is not pointed in the fully right direction. When you learn to air roll, when you learn to directional air roll to help you adjust, that's when the game opens up for you. As you can see, he's really only using this air roll so that he can point his car in the direction that he needs to hit this ball. And then he stops air rolling. When you're able to learn air roll to direct your car like this, it opens up the game because you're able to move your car in different directions that you would be able to with just normal air roll. So here is my favorite use of a directional air roll. It is amazing for getting soft touches in the air. When you jump up for the ball, being able to consistently get a soft touch on the ball to go for a second touch is a hard skill to pull off consistently. When you directional air roll a certain way, it allows you to tilt your car in a direction where you hit the soft part of your hitbox and keep your movement going, which allows you to continue the aerial in the right direction. So we're going to watch. This is Vatira in a 2v2 game. This is a touch he makes on ball. So as you can see, he's air rolling once. And then what he does is, we talked about it. He pointed his car. As you can see, his nose is kind of pointed this way. So he air rolled the same way. Since he's air rolling left, he air rolled left and then moved his stick left. And that pointed his car in that direction. And so what happens is he gets this really soft touch because he used air roll. And again, another rotation of air roll, keeping his car pointed in the right direction. Same thing. He kind of points his car towards the middle. So that's the inverse. Air roll left, stick right. And then as he goes for the slip reset, this is where you use normal air roll to get that really fine adjustment in that situation to get the right touch on the ball. He's able to get the flip reset. And as you can see, directional air roll has a lot of really good uses when it comes to making consistent touches on the ball. Okay. And and I want to specify something. When you are learning directional air roll, you only have to learn one. You don't have to learn both of them. I really only recommend learning one at first, but you can have both of them bound. Okay. With that, we have made it to the end. Thank you guys so much. Any questions before we head out for the day?
Thoughts on having one of the directional air rolls bound to a trigger?
Which trigger?
I have mine on left trigger.
Okay. That's that's fine. I don't think anything that bad happens. Yeah, I think that's fine. There's like a minimal speed change in the air. By minimal, I mean almost like not real, but there's a very small slowdown that you have in the air when you hit your brake button. Because I'm assuming that's your brake button too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. I would say if you've learned it enough, don't change it, just because it's pretty hard to rewire that thinking. But yeah, I'd say it's fine.
Cool.
Any other questions before we head out? All right. Oh,
I play keyboard.
you play keyboard.
Yes.
Very interesting. For keyboard, it's a little bit different because
That's what I'm asking.
yes, it's a little bit different because you can still have that arrow left bound, but you kind of want to you just use it more often because you don't have the variable input of a stick. You just have you just have your keyboard buttons instead of a variable stick. So for you, your inputs are going to feel a lot more stilted, but most of those things still apply for you. It's just figuring out how to bind those directional air roll buttons. Does that make
Oh,
sense? I'm sorry, I'm not super knowledgeable on keyboard. I know there are videos out there if mine doesn't fully grasp it, but yeah, I hope that helped.
LOL, yeah.
All right, awesome. Anything else? All right, y'all. Thank you for stopping by.